What up, Randy? Welcome in, everyone. What's going on, Blake? What up, Roger? What's going on, Mino? Pasta, Maddie? Tommy, robot. What's up, Charlie? What's up, Heidi? Welcome in, everyone. Welcome in. Robo Warrior should be gone. What a day. What's going on, Hutch? Amazing day here today. I think there was any hedges today to the downside, any puts that you had, you literally got annihilated. Appreciate that, Maddie. Yeah, you literally got annihilated today if you had any puts, any kind of hedges. I know that things were really looking bad for the most part, but I did come on live last night and we were pretty much right at resistance as I get into NASDAQ futures here on the screen. And you see that little descending channel that I had going on. We were literally right at that small accumulation candle right there when we were pretty much saying that we needed to see a continuation on that move towards resistance. And boy, did we get a continuation today. That was literally just a monster move. When I actually woke up this morning and I saw NASDAQ gapped up about 300 points, I was like, what in the world is the market gonna do during market hours? Because normally when we gap up that much, it's either we end up going sideways or we end up giving up most of those points that we gain on that gap up. But I mean, it literally just went Moon City. I think there was one point where Nasdaq futures were up about 500 points today, just insanely crazy. We did have some rapids that went up today. Those were just bangers. I think the one that really stood out to me the most was the Amazon one, and particularly because that one literally just shot up about 100 points nearly. I think at one point of the day it was about 120 points that Amazon was up, and I do expect continuation on that one. So I'll take a look at the chart. I do have it on the watch list here tonight. We also got the Apple Rapids. That's literally a no-brainer there. We saw that one, and it's gonna go higher. Likely we get up to about 176 on Apple. I wouldn't even doubt that we get to 176 here soon. We also had the AMDs. We know that that's pretty much, if I'm not mistaken, it's 100% or at least over 90% hit rate on those AMD Rapids. That was just a banger. And then the Tesla ones, I believe those paid. You just need to be a little patient on those, but those were also a banger. And for the most part with the Rapids, I try to tell you to set those limit orders. Try to get one of those wick downs to get a fill. Set a little bit of a lower limit on those entries so you can get filled on the wick down on that move to the downside rather than trying to get a market order or trying to chase it to the upside. All right, so those are really the ones that stood out to me. Of course, we did have the Nimbus. We had some nice ones that went off today. One that stood out to me was an unusual for Dash. That was literally a banger, if I'm not mistaken. Also, Tatum was on that one. He was literally pretty much over 35% in gains on that one. So those unusuals have been hitting literally repeatedly. I literally made a comment today. I'm like, I think I'm only gonna trade unusuals and rapids today, following from today on. So those were literally the ones that stood out as far as the agos that went off. But just to keep in perspective, before I literally get more into the charts here, just think of what's ahead right now. We still have the inflation data that's coming out on Friday. We still have the Fed's that are coming up also. We still have the variant that's still looming, even though today's rally really just put it behind us. Just remember that one headline of that variant really spreading in the US could really just do a little bit more damage, and then we'll see the volatility pick back up, even though that volatility crushed literally just, I mean, the VXX just went straight flushing. But just keep those things in the back of your mind, and then also we have OPEX week coming up as well, so we'll see a little bit of volatility there because of the OPEX. So those are just things to highlight. You just want to be aware of that. But getting back to future real quick, I'll get into the tickers that I'm actually just continuing to watch. We got that descending channel. We got that convincing breakout. Now it looks like we're trending towards all-time highs. It looks like there's nothing pretty much facing us. And this is where I got into those catalysts in which I say, that's really going to be a deciding factor whether volatility comes back or not. Is what I would expect to happen is that we're going to pretty much continue this rally going into the end of the week. And that's really going to be a deciding factor on Friday on that inflation data if really they're going to want to bring us down or if we continue this rally going into the Feds, going into OPEX or not. So the wind. Okay. All right. I'm gonna just continue. But that's why I say I do expect the rally to continue this week. We'll likely go right into Friday with that inflation data, and that's going to be one of the key points of stopping this rally, whether it does or it doesn't. So that's what I would pinpoint. But looking to get a little bit of a pullback here, we can easily pull back on Nasdaq feuds, get into this little range that I have here of 16,278 down to about 16,226. We can pull back and then continue that upside movement, trending towards the all-time highs here of 16,767. So we do have clear skies. As you see, feuds are already pushing, and wow, Nasdaq's already up over 60 points. Tom, can you give me a heads up next time that you see Nasdaq's really gonna push that much? Appreciate that. But we'll see what that does. Switching over real quick, let's look at S&P feeds real quick. If you remember, I still had this ascending broadening wedge that you want to call it. We still had it in place. And the only reason I literally just outlined that in this instance and I actually had it faded was because as you see that we broke down on the descending broadening wedge that I had plotted, and we broke out convincingly, I'm actually utilizing that line from that prior wedge as our resistance here. So I do want to see if we end up rejecting at that key spot here that we're approaching, in which that key level is right around 4709. I do want to see if we get a rejection at that spot. If we get a rejection at that spot, then that's going to be key. Probably get a pullback, and then we'll see if we make a second attempt to break out of that level. And then that'll be where we re-enter into our massive rising wedge, and then we try towards the all-time highs that we have of 47.40. And that's really things are really going to get interesting because if we start to really make new highs, I mean this rally, this Santa Claus rally, which seems to have started early, is really going to start to pick up steam. Because today's movement of 300 points on that gap up was amazing. But if that continues and we get past all-time highs, this rally is really going to start to pick up steam. I know that Dapper was even predicting 480 by the end of the year, but I wouldn't be surprised about that at this point. One thing that I actually did come across, and maybe I just wanted to highlight this because it did come across to me from an article I was reading from Business Insider, just to point this out to you. But it did report that investors actually bought 6.7 billion of stocks in last week's Omicron dip when we had all that volatility last week, and that was the highest inflow in 4 years according to Bank of America. That was just something I just wanted to point out. So they ended up buying the dip last week supposedly, and that's really where we just saw it shooting out of the moon here. For those of you that really just didn't know where this all came about, know where that volume, where all this movement came about, it looks like they ended up stepping in, and it was interesting that they hadn't had that kind of inflow in 4 years. So uh, that really just stood out to me today after I just woke up and I saw that price action this morning, that huge gap up. That was something that really just stood out to me. But moving on real quick, let me get into the tickers and then I can take a look at what you guys want to see. One is Amazon. This one we're pretty much, you probably heard me and Avery talking about this one for most of the day here. We had a beautiful little break of the downtrend. Beautiful gap up. That's what caused that $100 movement today. So I wanted to see this trend line hold. I think it actually looks a little better on the 4 hour. Yeah, it did. There we go. If I zoom it out so you get a little bit of a better view. So you have that beautiful trendline resistance. You have that beautiful break, beautiful little gap up there. That next candle towards the afternoon here that held that trend line that I have going up. And then I want to see us trend towards this zone here, reaching 3560. And then my second target of 3579. And then targeting that 3600 mark. So that's what I'll be looking at for Amazon tomorrow. I definitely expect continuation on this one in particular. So this will be top of my watch list here going into tomorrow, because I did see a lot of flow, and this is one another point that brings me out too is if you actually saw we were pretty much calling out minor flow for most of the day. I kid you not, the flow alerts that we have on the webpage is literally just money. I literally stopped looking at any other flow because when they start hitting those things repeatedly off that flow alerts that we have for TFC, it was literally money. I kid you not. Also, I think Tom was busy pretty much all morning, just working on back end stuff for TFC. He literally came in right about after lunch hour, looked at floor alerts, saw Tesla, and scalped it for $300 within a matter of like 2 minutes. That was just insanely crazy. He didn't even look at much. He literally just looked at the floor alerts, saw Tesla. I think it was about 15, like 1050s that were coming in repeatedly, and it literally just went bonkers. I was like, wow. So that was an amazing one, but I just want to point out how pretty much the strength of what our floor alerts were. But getting back to Tesla here, I just point out those levels. Again, that was 3560, then targeting 3581, and then ultimately 3600 is what I'm going to be looking at for Amazon tomorrow. Tesla was a little bit more of a disappointment to me. I actually expected, even if the market was green today, that Tesla would actually be red. That just was not the case today. Looking big picture, I actually had us breaking this massive pennant that we had. This was supposed to be our major bull pennant that we ended up breaking down. We're still within a range here to actually retest that breakdown of the pennant as resistance, in which we could potentially still have a move towards 1082. And so that is something that I'll be watching tomorrow to see if we get that follow through to the upside. But from what today's price action really told me is that there's a lot of mixed flow here. I did see there was a lot of put buyers stepping in at one point of the day. They're targeting the 900s for the most part, anywhere between 900 to 1,000 put strike. Today, pretty aggressively going out to 1217. That was something that stood out to me. And then also we did have buyers that were stepping in for 1100. And so that would actually indicate the retest here of getting towards 1082 and retesting the prior support now as resistance and then rejecting that. But today's price action going down to the smaller time frame was just phenomenal. I think I was literally just plotting out pattern by pattern intraday here. It was just amazing. We had that little descending broadening wedge, ended up breaking out. A little bit of consolidation within a megaphone action. That's where Tamakaze actually scalped this one. It was right around this 1046, 1047 area, and he literally just banged 300 bucks out of thin air, not even looking at anything much. Then we ended up getting that falling wedge. We broke that support. That's where we saw a lot of the put buying stepping in on this massive candle right here that we had. And then we ended up getting that nice little push towards the end of the day. So that push towards the end of the day is what's leading me to say that we're going to get that push towards 1082 to retest that massive pennant up here. But if we end up breaking down, then of course we have this massive gap below in which we're going to start to break down below 1027. So those are the two key spots that I'm looking at, below 1027, and then if we do end up pushing, getting that mark towards that 1082 level is what I'm going to be looking at. All right. And then just some other tickers that stood out to me was Adobe, and I think I was looking at this on a much larger time frame. But I was looking at Adobe here. We had the ascending broadening wedge. We had a breakdown. We had that beautiful rally here that we had between yesterday and today's price action. But getting towards resistance, I want to see how Adobe actually reacts here because I do want to see if it ends up retracing, getting a gap fill that it created to fill that to the downside. And that'll be something that I watch just because of the fact that it's towards resistance here. That's be where it's going to be having a key spot in terms of breaking out of that resistance to the upside back into the wedge, or it's going to end up rejecting towards the gap fill, in which gap fill will pretty much fill right below 640. So I'll keep an eye on it. I mean, it's just literally, it's not something that's top of my watch list per se, but just the key spot of where it's at right now is what's appealing to me. Another one was Qualcomm. I'm watching this one primarily because of the falling wedge action that we ended up breaking out of. Today you got that full body candle on this breakout. And why do I feel it actually looked better on the 4 hour? Alright, there we go. Yeah, it did. So it's like my trend line resistance actually aligned way better here. We had that full body candle breakout in which now we're looking to fill the wicks here of 1080 186.81 and then filling the all-time high wick of 188.77, and then we'll see where that one goes upon breaking all-time highs. So that's what I'm primarily watching is filling these two wicks here, 186.81 and then that other one at 185.26. Other one was just continuing to watch Costco. This was actually on my watch list last night, for that matter. I ended up showing you this little pennant that we had here. We ended up getting a nice little breakout. We still have upside to test resistance now from the breakdown of this ascending channel that we had. So we still have price action to get in towards 550 is where I would say is our mark. So watching this one towards 550, we still have a beautiful continuation. So if this presents itself for a beautiful day trade tomorrow, I don't mind stepping in on that one. And then the last one was watching Facebook here. Watching Facebook because it's still in this massive megaphone action, but we do have a little bit of resistance here at 326, then breaking over 329 to enter gap fill over 335.81. So I'll be watching Facebook as well. This is one that usually just sneaks up on us. I don't think you've heard me or Avery for the most part that we watch tech. We haven't really mentioned much about Facebook, but I do want to see this one. I do think that's going to be a sneaky play to get end up in that gap fill. So that'll be a beautiful move right up to 335 there to complete that gap fill. And I'll be watching that one. I did mention already Apple was going to be trending towards 176. So that'll be one. I think that's probably the strongest stock right now in terms of tech right now, in terms of the price action, the volume following that. But we'll see what Facebook does tomorrow for tech as well. We'll be watching Amazon. And then Tesla, of course, is always on the watch. All right. Let me see what you guys got real quick. And why are you guys calling out D Nut? Like, literally, why? Is there a reason? Should I really be looking at D Nut? Is it really that valuable to look at? All right, until you give me a response, and I'm gonna just ignore that one for right now. All right. I already mentioned Apple's going to 176. So I will tell you, Jose, Apple is going to 176. You can probably book it. I do see a lot of repeated action upon UPST. The answer was space. Okay. All right. So wait, didn't I look at UPST last night? Yeah, I did. I did look at this one. The reason I looked at this one last night was because I remember I didn't change anything here actually. I still have this long-term resistance trend line that I had. As you see, we got a nice little body wick breaking right through it. We have this beautiful little candle sitting right at where my resistance was. So we ended up testing it as support at that 191.54 level. That was a beautiful movement. So I do want to see this one get over 207. That would be the next mark. And I actually thought I had a resistance line set there. I didn't. So next resistance that I want to see us break would be 207. That'll be the next mark that you want to get that next breakout. And then you'll get that wick fill towards 220. So those two levels that you'll be watching. Getting over 207 and then breaking over 220 will be where you want to watch your continuation. Today's price action though was pretty amazing. I think the one movement that really stands out was the end of day break of that little downtrend that we had. We pretty much held anchored VWAP for pretty much most of all day practically. And we had that little downtrend resistance. That was just a beautiful one there. And we saw that little pop right into the end of the day. So that does tell me that we're going to see a little bit more of a continuation tomorrow. So watch those key levels again. 207 could actually come really fast. This one actually gapped up quite a bit. So I wouldn't be surprised to see us get another gap up. Probably hit towards that high that we had today, 198. And then we'll get that beautiful price actions towards that 207 move. Once we break over 207, then it's going to be an amazing ride towards 220. So I will buckle up for that one. But I do like the price action now. It looks a lot better than when I looked at it last night, to be honest with you. Because given the fact that we actually got such a good follow through, we got a nice little breakout there on that trendline resistance. And we got that follow through that we wanted to see. Got that beautiful little break of the downtrend to close the end of the day. That's what I like to see on Upstart. So let's see the continuation tomorrow. But 207 and 220 will be the two levels I'm really watching for those bigger moves. What hole do you mend with holes? What? Nah, I don't know that joke. I really don't. What up, Tatum? I didn't even know you were here. Someone mentioned something else. All right, I'm gonna look at one more ticker. Someone mentioned AMD. All right, that'll be my last ticker. I probably look at. Dude, I didn't even actually have this charted out at all. That's pretty interesting. I didn't look at this one at all. I haven't looked at it in a while since it actually broke down. Wait, I think I actually looked at it intraday. I take that back. So we ended up getting this breakdown. So I'm still going to extend that because that's likely going to turn into resistance here now. So giving you a big picture wise off the daily here, as you broke down from what I would say is a little bit of a ascending channel per se. I would say that you're gonna end up retesting this as resistance now. So big key level here for AMD will be getting towards 152. That will be your big level of resistance. Go Cowboys. Cowboys are not even playing tonight, my guy. Go Eagle. You guys are smoking something. Deadass. So 152 would be your resistance level. That's what you're really gonna be watching for on this continuation of the uptrend. We saw the strength that we had between Nvidia and AMD today. Nvidia was literally just nonstop. Avery was literally just kicking himself because he couldn't get an entry on Nvidia today. But chips literally have a strong bounce back. We saw AMD and Nvidia take some strong hits last week. So this is the bounce back that we're looking for. But overall, we're going to be targeting 152. Then that'll be the point where if we break over that 152 mark, then that's where the rally is really going to start to pick up. And we're going to start to really look at all-time highs that we already had at 164. But 152 is your overall mark that you really want to watch. I was actually looking at this one intraday. Now that I actually thought about it, because I didn't look at it on the larger time frame. But this was just a beautiful mark here. I know that Avery actually called out a beautiful entry on this one. We had this little falling wedge action, tested anchored VWAP beautifully right within the end of that falling wedge, and that was literally your entry. If you took that entry right there, right, if you got filled under 143, that was a textbook entry, and then you took that entire ride right up to 145. So that would have just been a beautiful scalp right there, and you would have ended up taking that beautiful. I think it was over about 60% in gains that I saw someone end up scalping right off of AMD following Avery on that entry point. So that was a beautiful one. I believe also Dapper was on that as well. So credits to Dapper also on AMD. But that was just a beautiful one today. But 152 will be the big mark here. We can easily see this one continue to rally off of this move here. And then we'll see what it does at 152, and that'll be the big mark. All right. Other than that, that'll probably wrap up. And yeah, I did say 176 on Apple. I know that there was flow going out to 180. I need to see it crack 176, and then we'll talk about 180 on that level. But 176 would really be the level that I'm really targeting off of Apple here. Did I really have this charted out? Let's see if I really had it charted out. Yeah, 176 is where my next fit is. So we'll see what it does at 176, and then if it gets over 176, then my next fit's at 181. So we'll watch what it does at that point. But other than that, and Nasdaq just does not want to stop. What is going on here? So forget the pullback on Nasdaq that I said earlier. Just forget it. I think we're just gonna go for Moon City. I think we should just put it at all-time highs and we just start there. Just put it at 16,767 and just push it from there because this move is just insanely crazy. Nasdaq literally gave us 500 points today. It's on track to give us like about another 200 points tomorrow at this rate. So we'll see what it does. But other than that, that kind of wraps up tonight's session, guys. The one thing I didn't like was, and I hate when markets do this, is that they gap us up so much overnight, and then everything during the day pretty much just becomes scalps. And I think Avery got that same feeling today, and this is something pretty much a good, hindsight to actually understand our perspective. When you get such a gap up, and then you don't want to end up chasing, that's literally the problem when you get moves like you did today. And that was really the struggle. Not wanting to chase the move after what Nvidia was doing, already up about 10 points on the day at opening bell. Then chasing Amazon, that was already up about 60 something points at the opening bell. So that was really just the mental tough part of days like today, in which you really just want to be a sniper and pretty much take your profits as they come. Because if you would have thought about it in reality, um, given the fact that Nasdaq was literally just pointing up for most of the morning, one pullback, and that would have literally destroyed all your premiums. So that's just something to think about in its own perspective right there. But we try not to chase for the most part, just waiting for the setups. Like that AMD falling wedge, that was just a textbook entry point right there. But you definitely want to see where those anchor VWAPs are, and that will be where you want to take those risks, the test of the anchored VWAPs. And that's what we tried to do for most part of the day here today. All right. But other than that, I'll leave you guys with that. So we'll see what tomorrow brings. Interesting to see what flow alerts are really going to bring, what unusual calls or puts are going to be out there tomorrow, because I will definitely be in that. And I'm sure Tatum will also. So we'll see what it does tomorrow. But other than that, we'll call it a night. I'll see you guys tomorrow on live. And hopefully this does not gap up again another 300 points because I would hate to have to trade scalping for like $2 gains yet again tomorrow. But you guys have a good night. Again, I'll see you guys in the morning on live.